evening, everyone. I am so excited for this town hall meeting tonight in the town of Bladensburg. My name is Amina McWhirter, and I am going to be the moderator for this town hall tonight for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We are in the last week of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but as we know, that domestic violence is a conversation, awareness, and eradication that we do 365 days a year, but we are focusing specifically on the month of October. I, again, am Amina McWhirter, the moderator for this evening, and I am also the founder of Love by the Handles, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that focuses on homelessness, domestic violence, and our at-risk youth. And I also am honored to be a partner in the town of Bladensburg to be able to work together with the mayor, Khalifa James, as well as the police department here in the town of Bladensburg. So without further ado, we are going to start this town hall tonight, and this is a very important dialogue. I also want everyone to know that you are able on the Facebook page of Bladensburg, Maryland, to be able to do any questions. We will ask your questions throughout the evening. And also, if you are a survivor, we definitely want to hear from you in our chat about you being a survivor. For any of my victims, anyone who is out there and they just want to be able to get information, may not be able to really say that this is a time that you are ready to leave or anything. We hope that tonight will be very informative to you, as well as for those that are really like, okay, what is this domestic violence really about? What is the different things? I hope that tonight will be informative for you as well, because at the end of this all, we are breaking the silence of domestic abuse, domestic violence tonight. So I want to introduce the mayor of the town of Bladensburg, Mayor Khalifa James, as well as council member Malik Hardy of Comar Manor. They will be greeting you this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's town hall. I want to welcome you to the town of Bladensburg and just thank Ms. Amina McWhirter of Love by the Handles for working with us once again as we try to raise awareness about domestic violence, and then also to provide resources to those who may be in need. For those who are watching, I just wanted to make sure we recognize Councilmember Malik Harding, and he'll speak momentarily, but he reached out because there was a tragic domestic violence situation that occurred in his community, and he wanted to make sure that we work together within the Port Towns community to address it to the best extent possible. And so I thank you for not just being frustrated with the situation, but turning the frustration into action and coming to us to work together to address this issue. To those who are watching who are domestic violence victims, know that you're not alone, and tonight is all about letting you know that we are here to support you. So tune in when it's safe for you to do so, and make sure you reach out to us so that we can help you get to a better place. Thank you all.
Well, I'll be short. I cannot follow that up right there. First, I want to thank everyone that's here today. As Mayor James said, we had an incident that happened in our neighborhood, and for me, I felt helpless. And it was a bad position for me because it felt like I couldn't do much for the family. And coming from healthcare and knowing how sensitive the situation was, I felt it was just within me to figure out a way to help people that are in a similar situation so that it's preventative and we're not looking for a cure. Overall, though, I want to say thank you, Amy, for being a moderator for this, and I would love and appreciate it if everyone that's tuning in tonight bring some questions, because we're interacting with you all to give you the information and to educate everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you both for greeting us this evening. So we are going to jump right into this town hall tonight. I am going to start by introducing our panelists. The panelists will introduce themselves, and they will give you a little bit information about what they are doing in the community and what their positions are. So I'm going to start with Corporal Tanksley. He is of the Bladensburg Police Community Action Team. Corporal Tanksley of the Bladensburg Police Community Action Team.
How you doing? So I'm Officer Tanksley. I've been serving the community of Bladensburg for the past 5.5, going on 6 years. And when I first started here, I was on patrol, and I noticed that we constantly came in contact with a lot of victims of domestic violence. And those victims, we could provide as many resources as we possibly could, but I just felt like the rehabilitation could be a lot better. And reaching out to foundations like Love by the Handles and others, it just made it a little bit more easier for our survivors, for those that still in there quietly, for them to have those type of resources and outlets to be able to have someone that listen to them, talk to them, and hear them out. And so in about 2018, I got promoted to the community action team here, in which we started to I started to serve the community from the community action team, and one of the things that was on my heart was always starting a crisis intervention. And starting a crisis intervention, the first resource that we wanted to tap into was domestic violence, and that's what we did. And we started to be able to help families and victims, male and female. And I'm happy to say that over these past years, we done probably help 50 or more individuals to be able to leave their home and be able to get permanent residence and other resources to sustain themselves as they move forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much. The next panelist that we will have tonight that will be speaking with you all is Khalifa Simmons.
Hi, my name is Carlithia Simmons, and I'm a domestic violence victim survivor.
Thank you so much. And you all will be hearing from Ms. Simmons shortly. The next panelist is from the Prince George's County Sheriff's Office, Diana Perea.
Hi, my name is Diana Perea. I'm from the Prince George's County Sheriff Office. I'm also part of the Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, also known as the Special Victim Assistance within the Sheriff Office.
Thank you. The next panelist that I will be introducing tonight is Jessica Garth. She is from the Prince George's County State Attorney's Office.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Jessica Garth. I am one of the Assistant Chiefs of the Special Victims and Family Violence Unit with the State's Attorney's Office. We handle a number of different types of cases, including domestic violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assaults of adults and children, physical violence against children, and child pornography, and other matters. I've been with the office for about 7 years. I've been with the Special Victims Unit for about 3 years, and I've been an Assistant Chief for about 6 months. And I know that my entire team, as well as the State's Attorney, are dedicated to serving survivors and victims of domestic violence, and I'm excited to talk about that tonight.
Thank you so much. And the last panelist is Jackie Rowan, from the Department of Prince George's County, Department of Family Services, Domestic Violence, and Human Trafficking. She is a division manager.
Good evening. Again, I'm Jackie Rowan with the Prince George's County Department of Family Services, Domestic Violence, and Human Trafficking Division. Our division is the newest division for the Health and Human Service agencies in Prince George's County, established when our current county executive Angela Also Brooks was our state's attorney. The division was created to respond to and educate our community on domestic violence services in Prince George's County. We were established largely because at the time of the establishment of the division, Prince George's County was leading the state in domestic homicides. So prevention is the key in education. And so I'll be speaking more about some of the opportunities that we have had in the county to work with municipalities and others on educating the community on what domestic violence looks like and how to prevent it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are going to start by having some questions. Also, I want to make sure that I cannot stress this enough this evening, that if you have any questions, please make sure that you put it into the comment section of our Facebook page here at Bladensburg, and we will be asking the questions. You definitely will know that we will get to as many questions as we can this evening. And then even if not, then I will also reach out and answer questions on the back end after the town hall if need be. So let's start, because I know that this is a discussion and a topic that, number one, is very serious, but as we stated with everyone has stated tonight, is that education, informing, breaking the silence, being real about certain things is what's going to make the difference with this eradication. And so what I want to do is I want to start by first, Corporal Tanksley. Let us know that specifically in the town of Bladensburg, what is it that you have found has been the main key, especially when we're also dealing with men? Because a lot of times we know that women are the ones that come out and talk about domestic violence the most. However, we do know that men are also being abused as well. They do not speak up as much. But on the flip side, we also know, because I have also worked with you, that some men, being the abuser, actually do want help and they want to change. So with that, you can talk to us about those two different aspects, but specifically from what you found within men dealing with domestic violence.
So I thank you for my time of being here. I found out that the men in Bladensburg do want help, as you were speaking of. They don't know how to go about obtaining the help that they're seeking. And most of the times it's been from a core issue that's never been tapped into, something that happened to them, something that they observed along their growing, along their journey, and they just need someone to talk to about it and then provide the other health medicational side to it here in Bladensburg. When we speak of the women, most of them are silent because they don't know how to, and I think that it's because of the culture. You know, the culture here, it could be mainly Hispanic, and sometimes they fear the deportation of being deported, so they don't want to speak on that, so they just keep it quiet, you know. And what I've come to find is the more that we tune in, or I like to say lean in, the more you give that ear, the more that they will release that information to you to let you get a little bit closer to them, a little bit intimate with them, so that way that they feel a little bit more trustworthy of you and know that you have their best interest, and then they're free to open up. And so that's what I've been learning. But the men, once we start to provide a service for them, as in get them the help that's needed, they start to change, they start to communicate, they start to talk more, and they start to feel better in the way that they go about treating their family, their spouse, their children, things of that nature. So I think that the men here have finally understood that we here and we care about them as well, and so they're more acceptable to talk now.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I do want to also interject, one of our panelists is not able to be here this evening, Myra Figueroa Clark, therapist, and she has also given some information that I will share throughout this evening as well, especially with what Corporal Tanksley was talking about, even when it comes to the mental health aspect of it. So the next question that I want to ask, I'm going to direct this to actually Ms. Rowan. And I would like for you to educate us on what is domestic violence and domestic abuse.
Okay, well, first I'd like to respond to the initial question about the men, and
Sure.
Only because when we started the division, we were intentional about inviting men into in conversation, because we recognize that men not only are sometimes always seen as the aggressor in the situation, but also because we know that men want to be a part of the solution. So the department started several initiatives that are male-specific engagement opportunities. One is held in March intentionally because that's Women's History Month, and because men want to be a part of the solution. It's our Momentum Men and Boys Conference, where we bring men and boys together, and we talk about issues specific to healthy relationships, men, fatherhood, de-escalation, and things of that nature. Because of COVID, last year the event was held on Zoom, and again this year it'll be held on Zoom. So I invite you all to stay tuned to the Department of Family Services website to get information on the date of that event, and tune in because it will be virtual. Two other initiatives that we started in the department are the Father's Day Pledge, which started 3 years ago, again recognizing that men want to be a part of the solution, and oftentimes fatherhood is a part of that process. And so we honor fathers on Father's Day and encourage them to make some type of a pledge to lead a healthy relationship. It doesn't have to be a hard, intentional pledge. It could be something as simple as picking up the kids on a particular day of the month so that the spouse or the mom could go get their nails done. It doesn't have to be something hard. It's just making an intentional pledge to do something different to make that relationship more healthy. And then the last thing that we do in the department throughout the year is something called the Father's Day, the Men's Challenge Initiative, and that is being held virtually as well. And again, we meet with men in small, intimate groups, and we talk, men and boys, and we talk about subjects in their space. It could be things like child support, because we know sometimes when absentee dads have to pay child support, that's one of the things that we see escalating into domestic violence situations. Again, de-escalation, communication, fatherhood. So we talk about a lot of topics like that, so men can come together and share their experiences and opportunities for solutions. And so domestic violence is an intentional act where individuals intentionally cause harm, whether it's mental, financial, or physical abuse to their partner. And it can, did I say men? We're individuals. Sorry, because we talk about men. We're individuals, because we know that men can be victims
Absolutely.
as well. So domestic violence comes in many shapes and forms. I can tell you that mental abuse is typically the one that we hear about the most, and it's the most long-lasting abuse that most survivors talk about experiencing.
Thank you for that. So I want to ask this to everyone, actually, and you all can raise your hand when you want to speak. But when Ms. Rowan talks about the different levels of abuse that stems way greater in some aspects than physical, because as we know, physical typically happens at the end. It doesn't start in the beginning with the altercations and different things. And so when she's talking about the different levels of domestic abuse, mental, emotional,
Right.
how has that, and we know, and I will make sure that I say this, it will stem from mental abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, spiritual abuse, parental abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. These things are all, these different forms of abuse is everything that is the non-violence. And so with that, and this could be, again, you raise your hand and you will be able to have the mic and speak. What have you found within the community and within you all's work that people now are more open to be honest and to talk about those other abuse, and really being able to realize that that is just as important as before the physical? And anything that you all want to share and educate our listeners, our watchers on that. Is there anyone that wants to elaborate more on the non-physical abuse and what has happened within our community?
I'll just open it up.
Thank you.
With the state's attorney's office, unfortunately, we often come in, at the end of what you're talking about, the cycle where physical abuse has already occurred. Pretty much our laws are designed to, punish after there's been a physical act. But what I've seen with survivors and victims who have come forward is it's absolutely 100%, correct what you're talking about. It's not just physical abuse. And when you're talking to somebody who has been in a situation where they've been undergoing that type of abuse and different types of abuse for so long, it's often difficult for them to even maybe recognize that the physical abuse is the only thing that we can act on at that point. All of these different types of abuse are sort of facets of something, and there's a model called the power and control wheel. I don't know if you all are familiar with it at all. But basically each of those is sort of a piece of a pie that creates a circle of complete power and control, by the abuser. So as a prosecutor, my role is to prosecute, physical crime that occurs, and if there are financial crimes that occur as well. But our office and, personally, I recognize that it's just as important to receive help for those other types of abuse as well. And that's why we have community partners, here tonight and across the county who are, that we work with, that we partner with, and I would encourage any survivor or victim to seek those services out as well, not just for the physical abuse.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to share or touch on that?
I think during COVID, we've experienced a lot more verbal and financial abuse. When we've talked to survivors, the last 18 months, I think if I had to pick the top two, it's been more verbal and financial, and some spiritual, but I think spiritual not so much is because a lot of the faiths have moved into social media, and so individuals have had the opportunity, if it's not on the actual day and time that they usually worship, they've had time throughout the week to go back and see the spiritual influence that they, whatever they worship or however they worship throughout the week. But most of the survivors that we've spoken to have been financial and the verbal.
So with that, I do have two questions, but I'm going to go back to the verbal and financial after this one. Ms. Diana, I would like for you to let us know as far as what Ms. Rowan was saying with COVID. What did you see, or how much of an increase did you see of different cases with COVID, especially in the beginning with the stay-at-home order and different things like that? And may I interject before she answers this question? It's something interesting of what Ms. Rowan said, what Jackie said as well, is that a lot of times we did not realize and understand that when the pandemic first started, the stay-at-home order alone was just that. You are staying at home with your abuser. And that also has escalated, into other things that has transpired. And even though certain restrictions and things are lifted, a lot of that impact during that time has also lingered. And it's also affected even more, and we haven't even started to talk about the children, and we're going to get to that this evening as well, of how it impacts the whole family. So with that, Ms. Perea, can you let us know how did that really impact our community?
It has increased a lot. Mostly it's verbal and financial because a lot of people have no way of getting out of the situation. When it comes to financial, not only that, but it's most of the time custody is involved. I will take your kid, or I will take our kid if you leave, or even then it's, where are you gonna go? It's COVID, you can't stay here, and it's terrible. I mean, to be in that situation, you have nowhere to go. That's usually where all our services come in. We do help out with that, along with if you need clothes, we can help you with that. If you need food, we can help you with that. Shelter, you can also get help too. And a lot of people in the county don't even know that those services are available.
Yes.
So it's good to know that, you have places to go if you want to get out of that situation.
Absolutely, thank you. And please know that throughout the night before we end, I definitely want you to elaborate even more on the services.
Yes.
As I mentioned to you all, one of the other panelists, Mrs. Farrar Clark, that will also was going to be here to talk about the mental health piece. She has interjected a part that I want to share. Domestic violence is associated with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and substance abuse in the general population. Exposure to domestic violence has significant impact on children's mental health. Many studies have found strong links with poor educational outcomes and higher levels of mental health problems. This is something that we cannot negate. This is something that we cannot connect, that mental health challenges and different things can affect domestic violence. Can also, and a lot of people don't realize that when it comes to depression and anxiety and PTSD, when we're dealing with mental health, just like when we talk about the levels of domestic abuse to domestic violence, that is very essential and very vital, because that is a part of everyday situations and everyday lives. And people do not understand that anxiety and stress, and especially when you're holding it in and not breaking the silence, can be also the silent killer, mentally and emotionally. What I do want to ask, and anyone can answer this, and then after this question, I will be turning it over to our survivor. We've talked, and two specific abuse have come up frequently already: verbal and financial, especially during COVID. Now keep in mind, ironically, financial, during the pandemic, when we had unemployment that was at a high, which means that anxiety, depression, frustration, anger will be at a high. And with that at a high, just think about how it's connecting. With that at a high, I'm going to talk to you any kind of way. I'm going to say what I want to say, because at the end of the day, it's just words. But words are very damaging. And it can also affect you emotionally and mentally. So the question to you all is, let's talk about that specifically. And it could be to whoever. What is financial abuse? And if no one wants to raise the hand, then I am going to select. Then, Jessica, can you let us know, what is financial abuse?
Sure. So sort of like I alluded to earlier, you know, all of these aspects of abuse are about power and control. With financial abuse, what you see is that the abuser has financial control over the survivor or the victim and their family. And this may be a matter of, you know, not allowing their partner to go to work. It may be that any money that comes in goes to a bank account that only the abuser controls. It may be not allowing them access to, say, a vehicle so that they can, you know, be able to leave the situation that they're in. But at the end of the day, what it means is that the abuser has the complete power and control financially of their victim in this case. And while again it's not physical, it does leave that survivor or victim completely helpless, because without money, you know, you can't do anything. So it's a particularly insidious, I think, type of power and control, because it's not visible to maybe somebody who's outside of that situation. It's something that's completely inside the home.
Absolutely. Corporal Tanksley, I would like to ask you the question about the verbal abuse. While you're out in the community, patrolling, going on the scene, what have you found, especially when it comes to the victim, in having that level of abuse being with them, and them being able to admit or ready to deal with that part of abuse?
I would have to say that in my experience, I've seen the overreaction of like we talked about, the depression, someone being depressed because of their situation and them overreacting and taking their frustration out on their spouse, which ultimately hurts the family. If I can allude back to the question about the power and control and the finances, withholding those things comes into the play of mental. You know, so it's all in the process of being able to mentally control that person. So it's a breakdown, and the breakdown is if I can control your mind, I have everything else, right? So what I've seen is the overreaction and continuous trying to sustain that control and have that power, be the voice, the only voice, you know, which brings in the fear.
Yes.
You know, so in my experience, that's what I've seen verbally. If you can down talk somebody and get in their mind, you have control over them. Right? As a person thinking they heart, so is he.
Exactly.
Right?
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So at this time, we are actually going to hear from a survivor. We're going to hear from Miss Khalifa Simmons, and I am excited and thankful that she is here where she has moved from a victim to a survivor. And before we have her speak, I want to salute and honor all of you all who are listening tonight that are survivors. All of you all who have made the decision to break the silence, and even for you all who are not quite ready at that time yet, we know that this night hopefully will be a changing night to let you know that you are not alone and to seek further help and know that we are here to support you in any way that we can. So before we start, I just want to already salute you. I want everyone to give you a round of applause.
Thank
for
you
being
all.
here tonight and being brave enough to share your story.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior for allowing me to be here tonight from what I've been through. But God has been good to me. But as a survivor, I want everyone to know you don't have to go through what your spouse is putting you through if you've been abused. Speak up. Let somebody know. You're not alone. And you too can get through this. You don't have to be abused by anyone. My hero is Officer Tanksley. He was there for me both times I had to call the police on my fiance. He was there for me. He helped me. Even been far and beyond the call of duty, he called and checked on me. He been around, you seen him, you speak to him. He come through, he'll check on me. And that's what I needed. His help helped me get through this and get help. And I really appreciate you, Officer Tanksley.
You're welcome.
Even after the incident happened to me, he still called and checked. Well, you need this, let me give you these resources. He gave me some names and numbers to call to resources. It's just like he didn't come the night it happened and forgot about me. He just kept on calling. He still calls and let me know things that's going on or resources, and I really appreciate that. But back to the abuse. If you have an abuser, don't accept that. You don't have to go through that. I've been abused more than twice, but I only called the police twice. But the last time I called the police, both times I called him, Officer Tanksley was there, but the last time, he would not let me get in the ambulance without calling the safe house. He said, you don't need to go back here. You don't deserve that. And so, with his words of encouraging me to get out of the situation, because I'm thinking, I'm in love. I've been with this person 9 years. It doesn't matter. If he loved me, this wouldn't have never happened. How can you love somebody and hurt them? So, please, male or female, you don't have to take no abuse. I was verbally abused and physically abused. And I'm here today to say I'm not going through that no more. And I wish you would get help if you're going through the same thing. That's it.
Thank you so much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
sharing what you experienced. And if you hear even what she's saying, verbal, and I really want to keep focusing on that because I really don't think that sometimes people so understand. I think it might have been the last 15, 20 years or so that we've really been talking more about the non-physical. And the verbal is so important because, as they mentioned before, mental and the emotional, a lot of times when that verbal happens, it's dealing with your self-esteem. It's dealing with your power. Would you find, Ms. Simmons, that was something that really affected you with the verbal abuse? Would
Yes,
you like
ma'am.
to elaborate?
Yes, ma'am. Even my mother told me the truth. My mother had been so proud of me because I've had 2 strokes, and I'm still able to function. I want to say perfectly. God didn't have to allow that for me to be this way. But I'm saying, my mother said my self-esteem, it was low. You lower your self-esteem. I was like, no, Mama, I'm still me. She said, no, I can see you're not feeling like you was about yourself. So emotional, physical, and verbal. Verbal abuse is the worst. Just verbal abuse is just as bad as physical abuse, because what it does is it's on the inside of you. I mean, you just keep accepting or forgiving. I've been with this person for 9 years. He was with me when I had the second stroke. I've had a stroke. Are you still going to kick me down some steps? How can you love me? A person don't have to go through that. If your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend is being verbal abuse, look out for the signs. Don't accept it. Stop it right there. Nip it in the bud. Don't accept no verbal abuse. You don't have to. You don't have to go through that. And let me let you know, if it's verbal abuse, there's going to be some different abuse coming behind that. Because my end abuse was physical. I mean, I could have died. And Officer Tanksley helped me realize, this ain't the first time you've been through this, so it's not going to be the last time, I'm sure. Get out now. And that's what I did. So I thank you again, Officer Tanksley.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. What I do want to make sure that I mention is that the average victim stays in, and if the numbers have changed, I definitely want you all to correct me, but the average victim will stay in a relationship 7 times. They will go back 7 times. And so what Ms. Simmons has said as far as her being a survivor and going back or staying, that's a part of that, because it takes time sometimes for you to realize that, wait a minute, this is not healthy. Wait a minute, I deserve better. And for you to have the courage, as Assistant Chief Jessica mentioned, to be able to say, you know what, let me see where my money is. Let me see where my resources and how I can be able to do this safety plan financially. And so just know that when the listeners tonight, family members, friends, don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to say, oh, well, if it was me, I would. Because you know what? 2 things. One, it's not you. And secretly, the question is it you? So that is okay, because we are breaking the silence for everyone this evening. I do want to mention that someone mentioned on our Facebook is that judges won't do anything with no one that calls the police if there is only the type of violence. So I would direct that question, even though it was a statement, but I would direct the question to say, is that really true? And I do believe, Assistant Chief, that you did kind of allude to that a little bit, but for either you or Diana, what can someone do, especially if they are the victim, as this person said, if there's no violence and if they really feel helpless? And again, whoever wants to speak first, just raise your hand. But what is it out here for the community if that is happening?
Well, I mostly work with protective orders and peace orders, along with EPSs, which are mental evaluations, along with ERPOs, which are extreme risk protective orders. But I have seen orders get approved by judges if it was just threats. Most of the time, it's through text message or even voicemail. They play the voicemail and they show those text messages, and the judge does grant those orders. It's not only that, witnesses, if they have witnesses, if someone was there when they heard this person speaking to them in a certain way or threatening them like that, the order still goes through. And I have seen that many times. It doesn't always have to be physical, but I have seen orders, every single kind of order get approved, even if it wasn't physical.
And I want to stress that, because knowledge is power. So I thank you so much for the person who asked that question, because we need you all to know that it is beyond physical. So as she just stated, that there are orders that are approved, because we are taking this very seriously in our community. And even though this town hall tonight is in the town of Bladensburg, where wherever you are listening from, in your city, in your state, the same resources that we have tonight and we're talking about is for you as well. And I want to make sure, and I will say this throughout the evening, the domestic violence hotline number, so that you will be able to get services where you are listening, is 1-800-799-7233. 799-7233. 1-800-799-7233. So please know that text messages, voicemail messages, anything that you will have can be, and would be able for you to use if it is non-violence. So I want to ask the question about, we focus on domestic violence with the other areas that we mentioned. But one thing that we have not actually talked about thus far is sexual assault, sexual abuse, even when it comes to human trafficking. And so, Mrs. Rowan, I would like for you to share and educate us. Jackie, I would like for you to educate us about that, about let's bring awareness even to human trafficking and sexual assault, and how that is also a part of domestic abuse and violence.
Thanks for the question. So one thing that we have, the more we do this work, we have found that a lot of the survivors, especially those that have gone to the sexual assault center for domestic violence, we found that there may have been some human trafficking occurring in those relationships, which is also a form of sexual abuse. So the more that we dig into some of the cases and interact with survivors, we're finding that they may have identified themselves as domestic violence and found out that it was human trafficking, or vice versa, or a combination of both. Again, human trafficking has a lot of similarities as it does with domestic violence. It's control and power. When you're being trafficked, you are being controlled, even when it's not just sex trafficking, but in labor trafficking as well. Someone is controlling you and making you to work for wages that are less than that it should be, or just to survive. Some people that are being labor trafficked are not even earning wages. They're just earning enough to have a roof over their head and food in their stomach. But there are a lot of similarities between the two.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And even with labor trafficking, we're going to take it back to what we talked about, financial abuse, right? It's all stemming, and we may have titled it differently, name it differently, but at the end of the day, it is all abuse. I do want to go back to one thing from Myra Figueroa Clark when she was talking about the mental health and focusing on educating that and understanding about anxiety, as well as different ways that it can affect your body when we're talking about verbal, emotional, mental, financial, spiritual. Be mindful sometimes of different things that may happen to you internally because you are silent of that. The anxiety attacks, the heart palpitations, hair loss. Maybe even if you are asthmatic, you're feeling more of the asthma episodes a little bit more because of the stress level. Weight gain, headaches, upset stomach, heartburns, irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of these different things, the high level, maybe in different aspects of, again, around heart disease and heart palpitations and different things. All of this is things that we want to educate you all on, that are different things about the silence of domestic violence that now is affecting your body internally. That's affecting your body internally. So be mindful of those different things that are happening, and to really talk to even your health provider, to be able to help you identify even those things that are happening to you. So let's go now and talk about our babies. Let's talk about how this is affecting the family as a whole when it comes to our children. And how some things, if we deal with the root of even the adult, let's be honest about that, could have stemmed from something that happened to them when they were a child. Because at the end of the day, everything always stems from that of a root. Because if we look at a tree, really big and beautiful, but down in the root, those roots go wide, they tie around, they even can get so hard because they're so deep, but that tree is full. And in some cases, it's full of the different things that they have experienced in life that has caused them to be abusive and or be the abusee. So I would ask this question first to Ms. Jackie Rowan. By you being a division manager of the Prince George's County Department of Family Services, what would you say that you have seen the most of how domestic abuse and domestic violence is affecting our family, but specifically for our children and teens?
Thank you for the question. I think what I've seen a lot, especially during the pandemic, talking to survivors, is that the cycle of abuse and the acceptance of the abuse is something that they've seen in their childhood as well. And I can't remember what the statistic is, but statistics show that individuals that are brought up in a household where there was abuse, they tend to move into their adulthood, into the relationships, and expect or accept abuse as a form of love in their relationship. There was a town hall by the school system today talking about absentee fathers. Again, the same concepts were repeated throughout the conversation about how well children are succeeding in school when fathers are in the household, even to the point, one of the topics was children do better in math when there's a male in the household. So I thought that was interesting, but again, the cycle of domestic abuse, we've seen a lot of it occurring over and over again in households where children have been exposed to that abuse. They grow up and they think that that is the way that love should be shown, either demonstrated because they're the abuser, the aggressor, or the acceptance of love in their relationship. So we have seen a lot of that in the cases that we have been dealing with, unfortunately. And you know, the other thing that I would mention is that during the pandemic, we've seen, now that things are started, the children are back in school, the number of CPS cases are back out of the roof again because the children are out of the house and individuals are able to see the children, whether it's eating, whatever type of abuse. They're not clean, they're hungry. So it's just been, this pandemic has been very traumatic on our society.
Yes. And one thing that I do want to mention to what she said was that for nonprofit organizations, 501c3s such as myself and others that are in the community across the board, please make sure that you reach out to your support your nonprofit organizations, support your community, support your faith base that are doing different things for homeless, domestic violence, our at-risk youth. Because as she mentioned, during this time, we know that financially a lot of homes, communities have been affected. But one thing I can tell you, even from the work that I do in the community, as well as what she just mentioned and everyone else, nothing has changed when it comes to this work. And across the board, we can say it has increased even more. And so we encourage you all to know that this is a work that cannot just be done by verbal. We have to be able to get out into the community as safe as we can to support individuals, to support victims, to support survivors, but more importantly, to support our children. So I have a question for you, Ms. Perea. What resources do you provide in the community for the work that you're doing and what we're discussing for men, women, and our children?
We have a lot of resources. We have House of Ruth, who deals with counseling. They also are free domestic violence attorneys. They can go with you to court. They are in both courthouses, Upper Marlboro and Hyattsville. You also have the Family Justice Center that's right next to the Upper Marlboro Courthouse, who is a one-stop shop. They have attorneys, they have medical team, they also have special victim assistants that are there. Every referral that we give is case by case. For example, if you already have a lawyer and you're okay with your lawyer, then we don't really give you more information about lawyers. So it really depends on the case. We give out information on shelters, food banks, I think that's what you call them. Every single type of resource that you need clothing, we have information on that. Counseling, therapists, mental health providers that are able to help you, and including with your insurance, or if you don't even have insurance, they can help you with that. But with this Special Victim Assistance Unit, we have almost all the resources.
Wonderful. And we will make sure that we will have information about how you'll be able to get the resources in our comment section.
Can I also just add, so I know we're talking about a lot of resources, and I want to make sure that anyone who's listening understands that you don't have to have insurance to have access to the services. You can go to the Family Justice Center if you're a victim of domestic violence, human trafficking, or elder abuse to get connected to to assistance. The other thing you can do is reach out to the Department of Family Services or the Department of Social Services to get access to information. Both departments have access to family preservation if you're having issues within your family. You have at-risk youth. We talked about that. Also, mental health services providers are available through both of those departments to get you connected. So don't think because we're talking about these types of services you have to have a lot of financial access to money. We will figure it out for you. That is our job, to kind of help you navigate the different systems that are here. So please reach out to the Family Justice Center for those types of services, or any of your governmental agencies to help us so that we can help you navigate and get assistance.
Thank you so much for that. I do want to just mention other hotlines and different numbers that we want to let you all know about this evening. For sexual assault, if you are a sexual assault victim, please call 1-800-656-4673. 1-800-656-4673. And even as we were talking about our young adults, our teenagers are victims of domestic abuse and domestic violence. And we take that very seriously in educating our community about that with our young people. So if you are a teen, if you are a parent and you know or have a feeling that something is going on with your child, specifically your teenager, please reach out to 866-331-9474. 866-331-9474. And also for you all that are listening and watching, when we're talking about mental health and you are concerned about maybe even getting more information and education on mental health and even how it connects to domestic violence, please know that you can go to thehotline.org. Thehotline.org, and that is already in our chat as well, to get more information specifically on mental health and how it affects domestic violence. So what I want to ask you all is that please elaborate specifically, and even if you have shared it, I do want you to mention it again for maybe some late tuners that are now watching or coming in. I will start and I will bypass our survivor, but I will start with you, Corporal Tanksley, and letting us know specifically what resources and what you do in the town of Bladensburg with the community action team and different things that you have. I know of the amazing work that you have done because we've partnered, but even before COVID, you were very intentional with you and your chief and the whole department, very intentional about having resources and signs and different things. So talk to us a little bit about that. Once he is finished, then we will go straight down the line and you all give that information.
Yes, thank you. So what myself and Chief Collinson did in the beginning is we wanted to make sure that the community understood that there was resources out. So we started putting posters out around the town for them to be able to call in with any concerns that they may have, so we could provide the resources that we have. We partner with a company called Unite Us, and that kind of helps them out to get, shelter, some financing, like food stamps, things like that, maybe be able to get employment. Also, what myself and Chief Collinson did is we partner with some of the hotels around Bladensburg, actually, the Holiday Inn Express. We partner with them for our victims that's in distress, to be able to provide them with a room to be able to, if they needed to get away immediately. That's like, exigent circumstances to where it's very important and vital. They can't stay there that night. We wanted to make sure that their safety was well. Alongside of that, just partnering with Love Body Handles and other resources to be able to get them counseling, to be able to help them financially, but overall to be able to touch that core issue so that we can touch the whole family. Yes. Not just one person, because in the community, we are a family. Yes. So what we wanted to do is we just wanted to do that as a way of providing opportunity, and we open those doors for them. So that's something that we do. Myself and the community action team, we put a lot of events on, just letting people know about support. And if I can, I do want to embellish on that. Our job here as officers, and I think everybody here would agree, that support just from us. Yes. To the community, that support for those that we are dealing with. I have a thing about doing it with your heart. I think, yes, when it's genuine, yes, someone understands, yes, that it's more than just you trying to be there for whatever other purpose, but they can actually feel that you care. And working with Ms. Khalifa Simmons, it wasn't about just being there on the call, but she needed to understand that there was support. Yes. So along with that, we do a lot of following up with our survivors, those that haven't been able to fully speak out yet. We still follow with them to provide them with resources. We just want to let them know that we are here. Mm-hmm. So constantly just staying in contact, phone call, events come up. We want to make sure that your company is out there so they know that these resources are alive. So, yes, basically that's what we're doing when it comes to domestic violence.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
As working with special victim assistance, we educate you on protective orders, any other orders that you can file based on your case. We help you out with, resources. If you were sexually assaulted or anything like that, we help you out, with next steps you can do to go ahead and further your case, including if you can press charges, where to go to press charges, court accompaniment. SVAs do go to court with you if you need them. Just let them know. Of course, come forward. We are there. Special Victim Assistants have been there since 2006. And they are in each courthouses, including the Family Justice Center and our main headquarters, which is also in Upper Marlboro. We do help you out if you need to fill something out and you're not able to, we can help you out with that too. Again, referrals, if you need something specific, if you need food, if you need clothes, women, if you need any menstrual products, we have them as well. We do have backpacks in our offices in case you need it, filled with menstrual products and anything you may need as well. If your child needs any clothing, let us know. If you have run away from the home or if you had fled your abuser and you need specific things, we'll help you out with that too. Just come to us if you need the help. Supplemental reports are received protective orders from the courtroom. Many people come from the courtroom to us, and it's their first time in the courtroom, and they are a little nervous coming to us. But if you need help, ask us for help, and we will be there for you if you need it.
And again, I'm Jessica Garth. I'm one of the assistant chiefs of the Special Victims and Family Violence Unit for the State's Attorney's Office. We prosecute all domestic violence and intimate partner violence and sexual assault and other crimes that occur in Prince George's County, which of course includes the town of Bladensburg. I did also want to point out, we do prosecute all violations of protective orders, as well as stalking and harassment, as well as physical violence, which is probably a bit more obvious. Every case that is reported, whether it's reported to law enforcement or whether it comes in through the commissioner's office, is reviewed by a supervisor in my unit. So if you are making a report, it is getting reviewed and it will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And what I did want to say is that the criminal justice system is again, it's kind of a reactive body, and it is something I think that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, given that these are family crimes. A lot of people, consider these to be sort of private things that happen. But if you come forward, if you need our help, we are there to help you. We want to help you, and we want to ultimately, help to eradicate domestic violence.
Thank you.
So again, I'm from the Department of Family Services. I wanted to let everyone know that we do have a housing assistant coordinator at our office that will work with you to provide stabilization. And so we call it a housing coordinator, but we're not thinking about brick and mortar housing. We're talking about the wraparound services that are available in the county. Again, we will connect you with services and assistance throughout the county. You can reach our office. The quickest way probably to reach mostly any of us is through the county's 211 information hotline. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. Someone is there to answer the calls. To all the survivors that are listening, I'd like to say that you are stronger than you think. To go through any type of this abuse and still be here, that means you're probably stronger than most of us outside of the survivor that's sitting here. So remember that the strength is inside of you to reach out. And for anyone who is reached out to, friends, faith-based leaders, in other words, please listen to the survivor, accept what they're saying, do not be judgmental. They may reach out more than 7 times, but please do listen to them. Reach out to our office. We also have a Survivor Resiliency Fund. We recognize that survivors come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and the Survivor Resiliency Fund is there to meet you where you are. It could be to assist with relocation assistance, furniture. It could be replacing locks, helping you with damages done to your home or your apartment, so we can help in that regard. I also wanted to say that this month is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so any ladies that are listening, to remember to check yourself and to get your mammograms. That's it.
Thank you so much. I do want to say one more thing before we end, and I will end it with just opening it up to you all one more time if there's anything that you want to share before we end. If not, then I will conclude this town hall. But I do want to just mention to you all who are listening, my name is Amina McWhirter, and I too am a survivor. Mm-hmm. And so I want you all to know, especially for you all who are victims, especially for you all who may feel like, I've been suffering in silence for so long. I do not know, am I able to really get the strength and the empowerment to be more than what the abuser has said that I am, no matter what kind of abuse it may be. May it be male to male, female to female, child to the parent, male to female, or whatever it may be, it does not matter. May it be elderly abuse, as we have talked about as well. You are not alone. And I am a survivor of mental, emotional, verbal, financial, spiritual, sexual assault, molested when I was a child, as well as I am a skin cancer survivor. So I say and I implore you to know that as well as it's me and others, that you too can make it. You too will be and is stronger than what you may think. I did not think or believe or know that domestic abuse was real. And I was experiencing it until I decided to say, you know what, enough is enough. And when it started to affect my body physically, not getting necessarily the physical abuse at that time, but it was affecting my body physically, is when I had to make a change. And so I encourage you all to remember things that we talked about this evening with certain phrases that love should never hurt. Remember different things that we talked about, the community. You may not feel loved in your own family or within your community, or feel that somebody would take what you're saying seriously. But what has been discussed tonight is that there is a community here to support you and to help you and to bring change to not just you, but your entire family. There were certain things that was also mentioned tonight, that resources and your voice is important. Your voice is important for you to speak out, for us to break the silence and have the eradication for domestic abuse and domestic violence and sexual assault. And I do want to make sure that I give the numbers again for the domestic violence hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. We keep it just as simple as that, SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. Sexual assault hotline, 1-800-656-4673. National Teen Violence Hotline, 866-331-9474. And also, if you want to go online to get more information about mental health, thehotline.org. I want to thank everyone out in the community that is about this work, because there is a lot of work to be done, but it's a lot of work that has been done. And I definitely want to thank our mayor of Bladensburg, Takesha James, for the work that she does in the community, but more so even for this work of dealing with domestic violence. Because as we know, a lot of people are talking about it, but there's still a lot of people that are ashamed of it. And so I thank you for that. I thank you, Council Member Malik Hardy, for your support. Please look out, because we are partnering together, Bladensburg, as well as the community of Colmar Manor. And the next event will be in November, and we will have a resource fair, and we'll continue to have information and resources to you. I want to thank all of you all who are watching and listening. I want to thank you all in advance for sharing this town hall tonight so that we can keep the information flowing about this. I want to ask you all one more time, is there anyone that will have any closing words other than what you've already said this evening? Please raise your hand and the mic will be to you, and then I will close officially after. Yes.
To those that are experiencing domestic violence at this time, don't be afraid to leave. Be afraid to stay. The resources are out there if you need it. You just, come to us and we'll definitely help you out. What you're going through can't be the rest of your life.
Anyone else? Well, thank you so much for tuning in tonight for the domestic violence town hall meeting of the town of Bladensburg. And remember, 2 important things. Number 1, don't be afraid to leave. Educate yourself and make sure that you're not staying in an unhealthy relationship. And know this, love should never hurt. We thank you for tuning in, and please make sure that you share, and share so that we can make a difference in our community and continue to break the silence. And thank you again for everything that you all have done this evening and everything that you all do for our community to make a difference to someone's life. Thank you.